This podcast is brought to you with limited interruption by Rudy Luther Toyota. Whether looking for an exciting brand new Toyota, a certified pre-owned vehicle, or getting quality routine maintenance and service for your vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota is the place to go. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Broadcasting live on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in the overnights, 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Wednesday. Matt and Brett here today. Jeff Stein going to be joining us here in a little bit to talk politics with him. How are you today, Brett?
Hey, doing good. How about yourself over there?
I am doing well. But I've got to tell you, I'm going to start with a story here that it's not political. We got tons of politics to talk about, and we're going to talk heavy in the 4 o'clock hour about the Minnesota primaries that happened yesterday, Wisconsin primaries as well. I will start, I guess one thing I'll talk about with that really quick is, in Minnesota, we have now possibly the worst political candidate in the history of politics running. A candidate that has got so many red flags, it is hard to comprehend. Royce White is a challenging candidate, it would be the right term, who somehow, some way, won the Republican primary and is going to take on Amy Klobuchar coming up this fall. He has made horrifically misogynistic comments. He has made horrifically homophobic comments. He has made anti-Semitic comments. He is an expert in appetizer buffets at strip clubs. I mean, there is a lot. I mean, well, at least that was one of the stories there. I think he did pay back the strip club money. I don't know. But he is a dream. And it's funny because I made this post about this on the social medias last night about this is one of the worst candidates ever. And not only is it detrimental, I mean, can we call the Klobuchar race now? I mean, do we really need to wait to November? I don't think we need to wait to November. But it is one of the worst cases. Not only is it that he's not going to have any chance to knock off Amy Klobuchar, but he is so toxic. He has basically, I think, destroyed any chance that the Minnesota GOP has of picking up the Minnesota House, because you're going to have to campaign against him, especially with Walz at the top of the ticket on the Democratic side. Trump on the other side, him, people say, you don't want him to speak. Oh, no. Oh, by all means, give the man a 24-hour microphone. I would love that. Oh, God, it is funny. And there is also very entertaining all the Royce White supporters, the 20 of them or so, who basically are coming after me and saying, oh, you don't like him because he's black, you're a racist. And then you click on that same person's social media timeline, and you see the most racist crap ever on there. The level of lack of self-awareness is amazing. This could be, I mean, when was the last time we had a U.S. Senate race where the outcome was 75-25?
Well,
I'm not joking. I think it could be 75-25. I'll break down the numbers in the state next hour. But, this is a candidate that I think is so toxic that Wisconsin Democrats could use Royce White against their Republicans. The Iowa Democrats could use him. Chicago, give it a shot. Why not? He is that bad. And just go look at his social media posts. Misogynistic, homophobic, anti-Semitic, yeah, he's a peach. Oh, why do you think I want him to stop talking? I can't even imagine what the Minnesota Republican Party is like today with him. It's like, for God's sakes, shut up, say nothing, just say nothing.
They want him to run one of those old school porch campaigns where he just stays at home and and doesn't campaign.
Are you sure you're running? God, just Yeah, it's that. But I got to start off with something outside of politics today. I want to get into something that is just, it's, okay, this is just, Walt Disney, I know you're a large corporation and stuff, but man, dude, this is cold. A man is suing Walt Disney Parks and Resorts for the wrongful death of his wife. He's facing a new legal hurdle, though. Disney is trying to get it thrown out of court and sent to arbitration because he signed up for Disney Plus years earlier. Court documents show that the company is trying to get the $50,000 lawsuit tossed. Not exactly. I mean, as far, okay, you've got a wrongful death lawsuit. It's $50,000. For God's sakes, Deadpool and Wolverine just broke the $500 million level. Write the check. Instead, Disney because they say the plaintiff, Jeffrey Piccolo, signed up for a 1-month trial of the streaming service Disney Plus in 2019, which requires trial users to arbitrate all disputes with the company. Company lawyers also claim that because Piccolo used the Walt Disney Parks website to buy Epcot Center tickets, Disney is shielded from a lawsuit from the estate of Piccolo's deceased wife, who died of a reaction to a severe food allergy. So I'm guessing this is what the case might be here is, you get in there and you say, are there, say, peanuts in this meal? And some high school kid says, I don't think so. And she eats them and ends up dying. I mean, whatever the case may have been. I don't know what the allergy is, but that does happen. It usually doesn't end up with a death, but it sounds like that's what happened today in this case. And in a legal filing responding to the Disney's claim, Piccolo's lawyers called Disney's argument preposterous. He said the notion that one second here, let me scroll through my briefs here. Said the notion that signing up for Disney Plus free trial would bar a customer's right for a jury trial with any Disney affiliate or subsidiary is an outrageously unreasonable and unfair as a shock to the judicial conscience. Walt Disney Parks and Resorts is explicitly seeking to bar its 150 million Disney Plus subscribers from ever prosecuting a wrongful death case against it in front of a jury, even if the case facts have nothing to do with Disney Plus. Piccolo is seeking damages in excess of, once again, $50,000. This is, I imagine if you go knock down the Walt Disney statue at the park, there's probably $50,000 underneath that. Check his pockets. It's a statue. Pursuant to Florida's Wrongful Death Act, as well as damages for mental pain and suffering, loss of companionship protection, loss of income, and medical and funeral expenses. Write the check. I mean, do you think that this is somehow going to endear yourself to the community to do this? Okay, a tragic accident happened. The thing which you should be doing is training your food staff and making sure, and I kind of, to a point, I'm kind of surprised this happened. Usually you have a full, information card with every meal that's sold there saying, here's what's allergic. If you have someone that doesn't want gluten, this is the options they have. If you need someone that's vegan, most places have that. So how they screwed this up, I don't know, but yeah. You got Disney Plus. You can't sue. Oh, all right. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Maybe if that's I've got Disney Plus at home. Maybe I should just not go to the theme park, I guess.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat, too. That's insane, Stan. Subscribers have signed up for that thing, and all of a sudden, you can't sue Disney anymore whatsoever for any reason.
For the death of somebody. Wrongful death, which you are clearly, it seems like you're guilty of. I mean, guilty until your trial, or innocent until your trial. But, if it's the case where someone gave them food and I can't have anything in there that has, butter in it. Oh, there's tons of butter in this? Uh-oh. So 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. So today, and when I do talk to Stein coming up here in a little bit, we're going to get a little bit wonkish into the numbers in regards to the election coming up here. Because we do need to understand the Democratic convention is next week. Then it's basically Labor Day weekend. You're into September. You've got 2 months. the Democrats are likely going to ride a pretty substantial wave into September. And right now, since Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have been storming across the country, the numbers have dramatically changed. As a matter of fact, I think one of the reasons why Trump has become so belligerent and disinterested in the campaign right now is because I think they've seen internal numbers where this is going to turn and this is not going to go back. Reminder, North Carolina, and this is one of the states we'll talk about today, North Carolina is basically a toss-up because they're running psychopathic MAGA people for their state government. And as much as you do have people in North Carolina who like Trump, these people make Trump look somewhat moderate, and yet they're turning people off. And then Kamala Harris is getting an advantage. If you're losing North Carolina, this is over. Arizona yesterday, we talked about the fact that there's an abortion constitutional amendment on the Arizona ballot now, in a state where that ballot initiative was polling 2 weeks ago at 69%. And Carrie Lake is your Senate candidate. Carrie freaking, I was robbed, it's all rigged, Lake. And you also have Republicans there who openly are revolting against the Republican Party at this point, the Masig mayor. It is remarkable, this situation, how this has turned around, but it is pretty clear what has happened is something simple. It's hope and joy. I mean, that is. I was talking to someone last night, and by the way, it is an interesting thought process. This person comes from, I believe, South America, and he's been up here for a while. He's been working, and nice guy. And he said one of the things that might be confusing conservatives when it comes to the Hispanic vote is that Hispanic people have realized if you get a MAGA hat, people will leave you alone. And it's like that episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where he basically puts on when the biker gets ready to get mad at him, and he quickly puts on his "Make America Great Again" hat. And he goes, "Whoa, timer, watch out there, okay?" All of a sudden, it's a very different scenario that you have there. That he was making the point is that a lot of Hispanic people, I don't know if the Republicans realize they're not really supporting MAGA, but they realize that if you put a MAGA hat on, that most people will leave you alone or give you a thumbs up and not give you any problems. So it's an interesting thought. When I do come on back, I'm going to talk a little bit polls, and once again, I'm going to take a big eye roll with polls because they haven't really been consistent or right lately. We'll talk about that as well as also what this really means. Plus, we got Stein coming. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
I see you got what.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Good to have you with us today. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. So, looking at, once again, this is the latest numbers here. And once again, I want to be very clear here. Polling is broken. It really is. Millennials and Generation Z do not answer their cell phones. You putting it out on Instagram is just, I can tell you, we've talked about this in the past. Republican groups go out there and find those online polls and flood them, so it skews them. They're not really reliable. So if you're doing things the old way, it just doesn't work because you're looking at landlines, which skews older, skews Republican. So, and this is not just me. Ever since Roe v. Wade was overturned, ever since that point, every single poll in this country when it's come to an election has been 5 to 15 points off the actual results towards the Democrats. The Democrats have clearly picked this up, and it's hilarious to watch the national media after 2 years of this. 2 years. Keep constantly saying, well, gee, if this keeps up, this might be a trend. It's a trend. And right now, there isn't anything that shows me that trend is ending. Because you want to know, you overturned Roe, you took people's rights away, people get mad. So I want to look at some of these polls because it is showing, and this is why I said I think that Trump is somewhat. I think he's realizing that this just became a much harder task. That they had their game plan with Biden, old man Biden, old man Biden, old man Biden, attack hunter, attack hunter, attack hunter, old man Biden, old man Biden. Now he's not even there, and they have yet to find any way to be able to attack Harrison Walz that leaves anything more than just well, that's pretty lame. And even Republicans are now out in force saying, stop with the stupid attacks. This is how they've changed. The national polls, and once again, take this with a grain of salt. Harris now leads 46.9 to 43.8, which is a 5.8 change in 1 month. Pennsylvania is now well over 2 points in his in the favor of Harris, and that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Michigan that's 4-point lead, basically a 4-point lead in Michigan. Wisconsin is a 4-point lead for the most part, 3.9. Georgia is still slightly leaning towards Trump, but that's basically a toss-up. It's 46 to 45.4. And the Democrats have picked up 9 points in 1 month in Georgia. 9 points. Arizona is now a Democrat. It's a 1.5-point lead for the Democrats in Arizona. That is a 11.8-point pickup in 1 month. North Carolina is basically a toss-up right now. North Carolina is a freaking toss-up right now. Nevada is a bit of a toss-up, but leaning Democrat. Virginia is that's you can even take that off the board. That's leaning heavily to the Dems. And now they've started tracking Florida because Florida has gotten closer and closer and closer. And that constitutional amendment, we had Maxwell Frost on, the the representative from the Orlando area. He was on a few weeks ago, and he said right now that constitutional amendment for abortion rights is polling at 62%. And that's, Rick Scott is in big trouble down there. It's going to be interesting. And, Trump does well, but, Rick Scott doesn't, Trump doesn't have coattails. And Rick Scott is not a very liked person down there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. This is why it's start paying attention to Trump because, like I said, it's going from I'm trying to compete to okay, fine, whatever, to be prepared. It's already rigged. We've already lost. It was already fixed. Kamala Harris is officially the Democratic presidential nominee, but Donald Trump's continuing to describe the vice president's elevation to the top of the party's ticket as unconstitutional and accusing her of taking part in a coup. No serious effort to challenge Harris's status as the Democratic nominee is underway, but some of Trump's critics warn that the former president could be laying the groundwork to question the outcome of the 2024 election if he loses a second time. Democrats are set to gather next week in Chicago for the national convention, which they'll rally around Harris and their new standard bearer. After Joe Biden decided not to seek re-election, the Democratic National Committee made it official last week. Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz are the party nominees for president and vice president, respectively. Convention delegates held a virtual roll call ahead of the convention. Republicans have acknowledged that the DNC vote, there is no longer any path to challenge Harris's placement on the ballots. When the DNC nominated her, they were still within the time frame to submit the required documentation to each of the states to place her name, and Walz is on the ballot. The fact that the DNC nominated her has ended any challenges in this regard, a person familiar with the Trump campaign told CNN. That's even Trump's campaign. So there is no illegitimacy here. So, I don't think he's trying to do a legal challenge. I think, once again, his fallback plan, if he loses, is to basically, January 6th again. And only this time, he knows he has only a few months to get an overturn to government. Overturn an election, overturn a government, and install himself to get out of legal problems. None of this has stopped Trump, by the way. Now facing much closer race, pollers show that he once he led against Biden from complaining about Harris's ascension. which took place after Biden had swept the Democratic primaries. One of Trump's inter-party foes said the former president's efforts to question the legitimacy of Harris at the Democratic nominee could be a way to lay the groundwork to question the legitimacy of the election overall. We know one thing for sure, Trump never loses in it, so if he has not declared a winner in 2024, as in 2020, it must be because he was untreated unfairly yet again. It was stolen yet again, said John Bolton, who was Trump's national security advisor and has become a vocal critic of Trump. I don't think he knows exactly what his theory is going to be this time to explain how he was denied winning the election. So he's trotting out a number of things, and I think this is why people need to start thinking more now about how to deny Trump the ability the day after the election, if he loses, to try to throw the process into chaos again. And trust me, Bolton is right, and God, does that not feel good saying that. Bolton is right. Right now, the Republicans have teams of lawyers scouring every legal book they can find when it comes to elections. State books, national books. They're going to go in there and try to argue some way or the other that this election was illegitimate. That's what they're going to say. We need to be prepared for this. And I will also make the very blunt statement I've made. You need to be prepared for a bunch of these knuckleheads when Trump loses to start firing off guns. We saw with the assassination attempt of Trump, the immediate reaction because it's one of those Antifa, liberal, immigrant, abortion lovers, and the reality was far-right guy. But before they knew who it was, they were all like, well, thank gosh, here comes our civil war. Get ready to start fighting. And the reality is that, that kind of exposed what's lying underneath the surface of the Republican Party, and that should scare a lot of people. Jeff Stein, speaking of scaring people, Jeff Stein joins us when we come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Girl ain't right, I got the remedy. It ain't too many of them that can handle me.
Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff.
Jeff Stein's our national and presidential expert, noted author. You can find his books at your favorite bookstore. The Iowa Politics Report, the Iowa Business Report, come to us from the mothership, where he is the big mother. It is KXCL, Cedar Falls, Waterloo. Hi, Jeff.
So before the break,
Yes.
You said something about, and speaking of scaring you,
Yes,
Jeff will be along in a moment.
indeed.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I didn't realize you were on the air so early. Jeez, I've always been so nice to you.
Until today, the one day that I actually log in to hear you promote that I'll be coming up. That's the only day you've ever been nasty.
Well, I've actually had multiple people ask me if your middle name is actually McGillicuddy. And I said, no, it's not Jeff McGillicuddy Stein. So there he is. I don't know why I started saying that, but it's sticking. All right. So,
Well, I've been called worse by better. So there you go.
well, that's not that. The better part's not a high bar. Okay. So I want to do something here. You and I haven't done this in a while. I want to get wonkish and look at numbers as best as we can and do this because we got the DNC next week, and so obviously we'll be talking about that, and then we get into Labor Day. But we're going to right now, there's a trajectory here for the Dems to go in with a lot of momentum into September. With 2 months left to go in this election, they're going to get the DNC, get Labor Day week, which is kind of a garbage week for news anyway. Boom, you get into September, and the Dems are going to be firmly in control. This on top of the fact that in the last 3 weeks, the poll numbers that have moved, and once again, polls take them with a grain of salt because, once again, Generation Z millennials are not being involved in those a lot of the time, at least not consistently with reliability. They have been moving towards Harris and Walz, and it has been something that is becoming more and more clear that this change is sticking. And it's unless Trump can figure out some way that doesn't involve begging for Biden to get back in the race, I just don't know how he's turning this around.
Well, one of the things that has worked in the Democrat ticket's favor is the fact that they were named. They were approved by the delegates voting, and they have not had to do anything that was not well controlled. And I say that not as a criticism. It is a compliment. I'm hearing all of these people, and I have opined, you can't use this strategy forever. But for those who have said, well, why doesn't she sit down and do an interview? Why?
Yeah, why?
At this point?
Exactly.
Because
she doesn't need to, really.
Because here's the thing. Right now, you're the new thing. Use whatever analogy you want. And so, therefore, it's the fresh ticket. Even though she was on it 4 years ago and was primed to be on it again this time, there's a difference when it's a generational change at the top. I mean, that's all there is to it. So why in the world did you do anything and risk screwing it up? As you said, there is momentum heading into Chicago next week. Why do anything to screw that up? Show up, give a great speech, and then worry about, do I sit down for an interview with Norah O'Donnell? Do I do this? Do I do that? And by the way, I would have the ticket sit down. I would have the vice president and the governor sit down together for that first major interview. Not because either couldn't handle it alone, but it's the symbol of moving forward. And this is a team and all of this. And so I would take all the goodwill from the convention, leverage it into one good sit-down joint interview, and play the calendar out, to your point. Mm-hmm. You've got Labor Day, which is the 2nd. This first debate between Trump and Harris is supposed to be the 10th. So the calendar is nicely compressed.
Thuffer and Thuckatash, the 10th. I'm sorry, had to do that.
Why? I think Minneapolis and Chicago are all rising up and asking why.
And Seattle. Thank you, my friend. But no, it's why? Because I don't know what was up with that filter they put on him, but they made. I always thought the filter was just for the image behind it. It didn't actually turn the person talking into a kitty cat. But that being said, nice job on X. That's where you bury him. You're right, though. It's the 1-2 punch. It is the 1-2 punch. I like that idea. And you can do that interview with, I mean, obviously, I don't think you necessarily want to go to Fox, but you can do that with a CNN or an ABC and really kind of, and say, hey, we're not going to shy away from just, questions. Off you go. I think that that's going to be something. Those guys are polished. Right now, you're watching these speeches, and you're right. They're prepared. It's a controlled environment. But, God, they look polished. And Walz, when he's coming back on rebuttal points, he's delivering them as you want them to be delivered. I mean, it really is. It's a tough reality for the Trump-Vance ticket because this is not what they were expecting to go against at all, and they clearly are showing it.
And that's why I cannot understand why they don't focus. This is political. I cannot understand why they don't focus on issues. Because of the fact that the personality thing, you don't know what it is you're going after. You don't have your argument set. You had it with Biden, but you never dreamed he wouldn't be the candidate. So when Trump still spends half of his time at the podium in a rally criticizing Biden, well, okay, that's nice, but you need to either make it Biden-Harris, because it is her administration too, because you can't have that both ways. But it just, this is the thing, that, and I think America deserves this, but it may not happen. The two tickets have sharp opposition to one another in a variety of fundamental issues. Mm-hmm. Economy, energy, how to provide for citizens, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, go down. I don't know that they agree on anything. The fact that they may have agreed on September 10th, well, that's kind of a stunner. They don't agree on anything. So if you made this an issues-generated election and just highlighted that, I think that the citizens would be far better served, quite obviously. But I don't know that those on the right can help themselves, and I haven't seen enough from the folks on the left.
Well, here's the problem, and I think this is part of the problem. We now, since 2010, have had very generic talking points. we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. We're going to cut taxes. We're going to do these things. And it comes down to specifics. And on one side, you do get Harris and Walz who will say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this. 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 Republicans, let's just be honest, they don't have a game plan. They'll wait till they get in power. Then the people behind the curtains write out the bills. They get the stuff done, and then they present it, and they kind of push it through. They're not a party. They have become a party that does not have very established, clearly discussed, here are where the tax cuts are coming. Here is our specifics to our education policy outside of letting parents take over the classroom. I mean, a lot of their stuff, I think now, after 16 years, out of 14 years, is basically just kind of these generic complaints, and it gets really hard when that's all you've had, and abortion, which now you've got to try to avoid.
I don't think the Democrats are stating their positions very well, though. I mean, I think that the whole thing, and I'm not saying they should at this point, because this is the introductory period. Yeah. Right?
They're in a different stage than Trump Vance.
Okay, and Vance, it's just Trump. And let's face it, with all due respect to the governor of Minnesota, nobody cares. Nobody cares that it's Vance. Nobody cares that it's Walz, because it's Trump versus Harris. Period.
Oh, you've just lost every invite from Minnesota. You just have.
I'm already barred at the border. I can't cross over to the north. But the fact is, I mean, the vice presidential choice. I mean, these people who are talking about, the Republican choice, nobody cares. You're either voting for Trump or you're voting against him.
All right.
I mean, that's what it comes down to, right?
I'm going to bring up, this is the electoral-vote.com. League of Women Voters puts this out, and it's a great website. You and I have talked about this website before because, as you stated, this is not a national election. It's a state-by-state election. And they go through this, and they not only look at the presidential race, they currently have the Senate as a 51-49 for the Democrats, which I thought is interesting. That's worth maybe a discussion for another day. But I want to just look at the Electoral College because it's a numbers game. It's a math game. And Harris right now is leading 287 to 235. Arizona now is in the blue camp. That I don't know. You saw that story about the abortion amendment to the Constitution in Arizona, bidding approved. That's now on there. It's a 69% approval rate in Arizona for that. That's big trouble for them. You've got North Carolina, and I think this is not so much to do with Trump, but I think it's the loon ball brigade that they've got running for state offices in North Carolina. That's now literally a toss-up state. And even Nate Silver is...
Wait a minute. The loon ball brigade?
Have you seen the clown car? Have you seen the clown car that's the North Carolina GOP? They are... Oh, gosh, it's just precious. I mean, I got Royce White up here in Minnesota, but that is that's a never-ending buffet in North Carolina right now. That being aside, you even got Nate Silver, and once again, I don't really Nate Silver, but he has now started moving Florida. He wasn't really even. It's like Wyoming. He was not really even considering Florida in the play column. He now has moved Florida into. We need to start paying attention to Florida because of their constitutional amendment on abortion, which is apparently polling somewhere between 60 and 65%. And so the numbers. You look at this. The numbers are not really doing too great for Trump right now. And granted, honeymoon period, you're right. They're rolling it out next week, the DNC. But this is what I'm getting point. We're into September before Trump's going to be able to try to put some kind of cohesive counterpoint. And right now, all the Duke can do is ramble about crowd sizes. And I'm just wondering where this is, at this point, I'm starting to look at numbers, and I'm just like, I don't know how he's going to bounce back from this at this point.
He's putting all the eggs in the debate basket, it would appear, with the concept being, hey, the last time I debated the Democrat candidate, they pulled him from the race. Well, that was then. But one thing I
don't think that's a good strategy. I think Kamala Harris is looking. She is, especially after that whole thing with the journalists. I think that she is just wanting to get in there and take him down like a prosecutor would, and a trial.
Well, but here's the thing. All right, she did very well, and now I'm going back to 2019.
Yeah, okay.
She did very well in that first debate, calling Biden out. That was the high point of her campaign, though. And again, we've had this conversation about what I think are her deficiencies as a campaigner, but that was when she was running her own campaign for president and didn't make it to the caucuses. It's a different thing when you're the national candidate. It's a different thing when you are when you've had 4 years of experience as the vice president. The thing that is going to be interesting is, can the Trump team recalibrate by looking forward? They've not shown an ability to do that. And here's the thing that I say to every Republican. Well, there's one thing I'll say briefly. I have heard from directly some people who used to have a pipeline to Trump, people who you would think would have a pipeline to Trump. And you'd know them by name. And each of them, I've overheard conversations where they've said, do you know how to get a hold of somebody there? Because you need to focus on the economy and the border and crime. Enough of the rest of it, enough with what racial makeup, et cetera, et cetera. So when you've got people on the inside who can't get word in, there's a serious issue. There's no question.
And you and I have talked about the fact that there's no real state presence for Trump in a lot of these states. And now they're announcing they're going to outsource a lot of their get out the vote people. And I'm like, okay, do you understand how you're going to have a patchwork quilt where, sure, you might get one or two states where it worked pretty well, but you're going to have states which are just going to be an absolute joke if you just do that. I mean, here's
the absolute joke.
Yeah.
You've got all of these people on that side who say rigged election in 2020, everything was fake, it was stolen, blah, blah, blah. When I have asked people who are tasked with that, what have you done to fix it? The answer is, well, we're going to swamp them this time.
Okay, great. Thanks, Cajuns. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, I got two specific questions for you about the campaigns. Jeff Stein joining us. It is the Matt McNeil Show.
Yeah, I will go screaming out my pain.
Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. In the afternoons on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. And at night on 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle. It is the Matt McNeil Show. Jeff Stein joining us as usual here on a Wednesday. Jeff, I'm going to ask you a question. Now, once again, we can't foresee something. I mean, Joe Biden withdraws. All of a sudden, the race changes dramatically. So, barring any major announcements, outcomes or something like that, will Donald Trump and Vance win or lose this race by their ability to counterpunch Harris and Walz's feeling of hope and joy?
Will they be able to win by counterpunching?
Because, all right, so I'll give you a great example.
No, I understand the question. Not if they're counterpunching, because it comes off as mean-spirited.
Oh, a good point. Okay.
If they focus on this is what we will do because I already did it once, but I'm afraid it's going to be the mean-spirited side. And I don't think you combat what used to be hope and change. Now it's hope and joy, right? I mean, you don't beat the happy warrior by looking like a mafia figure.
Well, and Vance had that, softball question put to him. It's like, what makes you happy? And it's like, well, I'm happy about a lot of things, but right now I'm really angry. And you're like, okay, wait a second here. You seem to be missing the point is that Walz and Harris and Walz, regardless of what you think, they definitely have sparked this feeling of hope and joy, and there's excitement. There's this. Walz is himself, just a slice of Midwestern love out there. I mean, you have this. I have a feeling being shown that. And then you see the other side where it's constantly, they're trying to kill you. They're trying to murder you. They want all your stuff to go away. I'm like, I don't know, unless you guys change your tone, which I don't even know is possible for Trump and Vance. I think that might be what ends up doing them in as far as their chances on the election.
By the way, Seattle,
yes.
Hello.
Good
to talk to you. That was Matt's angry voice. Matt does impressions. At some point, he'll do Trump, but maybe not.
Already. Hello.
Oh, no. I'm
Sorry.
to hear that. Yeah, see, this is the problem where, how do I phrase this? I think the rank and file Democrats were just so despondent after the debate and how Biden was appearing. And God bless him. I mean, there are some issues, and those of us who have dealt with family members, I mean, my heart goes out. I think they were just so down. And then there was a change, and it's people who are, exuberant. And, I mean, I think it's a bit of a hollow feeling right now because they were down so low. People.
Okay. I want to clarify that. So I get what you're saying. What he's not saying that there aren't policies, there aren't things like this. It's just as right now, any change was going to be like, thank gosh, we're here.
Well, yeah, it's a happiness. It's like, oh my God, I'm despondent, and then all of a sudden, well, it's sort of like your favorite football team, and they're just whatever, and then they trade for a new player, and you're like, okay, a completion on the first down. Now we're going somewhere. And so I think that's what a lot of this is. Now, can they maintain that? And then they tear their ACL.
Anyway, no, I won't even. I'm going to move past it. All right, so.
Chicago just cheered. But go ahead.
Seattle just cheered. Trump crowd size, if he doesn't get this under control, if he does not get this under control, here's another thing that could doom him. How much, if Kamala Harris just starts going after him in his crowd size, it doesn't seem like anyone can control him. He just gets so outraged, so angry, off the rails. How much is that going to factor into the next 2 months?
She needs to leave that alone and not even mention it.
Why not?
Don't lower yourself to that level.
Dear God, if he's going to become a spittle-throwing, red-veined freak every time someone says you didn't have that many people there.
Split screen, right? Because when they show him doing that and her saying something like, wow, look at all these people, and not a one of you is AI generated, are you? And be done with it, right? I mean, it's sort of like, people may not know, they can watch us have this conversation, and the split screen between you and I is just like night and day difference. And so, again, spittle-throwing guy on the left side of the screen and, hopeful joy guy here on the right. But no, I mean, I think if she if she dismisses it with a joke, then she wins. But if she gets down into the mud, everybody gets dirty.
And that's many people have tried that with Trump, and that's happened. Do you feel as if this time around for Trump, Ivanka not being there and not being part of the team is not because I'm wondering who is gone now that used to look at him and say, "Let it go, Dad." It's not Eric, it's not Trump Jr. I'm wondering how much Jared and Ivanka were able to be the Trump whisperer per se in the previous elections and keep him from going off the rails like he is right now.
Kellyanne.
Kelly, you think so?
I think so. Well, I do think Ivanka, yes.
Yes.
But Kellyanne is not involved. And I think she was able to rein him in. Again, it's a matter of who do you listen to. He trusted his daughter, and I think the son-in-law in the White House. Yes. I don't know so much during the campaign. I think Kellyanne was the one that pulled the rabbit out of the hat for the campaign, and now she's busy collecting a paycheck from one of the cable networks and Ukraine, apparently. She's registered as a lobbyist. Did you see that?
Yeah. Well, what I have seen is clearly Trump Jr. and Eric seem to be there is this stupidity that comes from those two that is like, Dad will say something bad and he gets ridiculed, and then they try to say something dumber as a way to try to take the spotlight off his dad. And I'm like, okay, you guys don't seem to understand. None of this is working.
You're not going to be old enough, but when Gerald Ford was president, Saturday Night Live used to make fun of him mercilessly for stumbling and whatever. And one of the sketches was, we have to make what he does look normal. And so all the aides were told to stumble. So, the Chevy Chase Ford character would bang his head, then everybody would bang their head. That's what's going on here with the kids. It's like, oh, look how crazy we are. Dad is sane by comparison.
Oh, God. All right. So, once again, you can get this little gem of a show on the podcast. Make sure you listen for that. The Iowa Politics Report, I'll post a little bit later on. Find Jeff's books at your favorite book retailer. Jeff, as always, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
We'll see you.
Seattle, Chicago. Talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2 up next. Hour number 2 of the show here on your Wednesday. Matt and Brett here today. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. A little bit later on this hour, we will give away some tickets to go see Matt Matthews. He's coming in tour. Bougie on a Budget tour is coming to the State Theater in January. Tickets go on sale on Friday. We are giving you away tickets before you can buy them. All you have to do is listen for your chance to call in. We will give those tickets away a little bit later on this hour. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. I'll get to the Viking stuff here in a little bit. But I want to actually, because we did get the primary stuff done, I want to go through a few things about primary night here in Minnesota and what it really does tell us in regards to the outcome and what we can look forward to in November. And I'm going to start with the Minnesota 5th District, which is Ilhan Omar. A much stronger showing this time around against Don Samuels. Don Samuels, he did well in some areas. I will say this, one of the things that was fascinating about the map when you looked at the city of Minneapolis itself, Ilhan really is she won pretty much almost every segment of Minneapolis outside of the very downtown area and the very southwestern part of the city. She pretty much dominated the rest of the city. It was 56 to 42% with some other third and fourth candidates for the DFL there. And a pretty resounding win. Now, I will say this. Her campaign this time around for the primary, which, once again, this is the general election. She's not going to lose the general election in November. So Ilhan Omar's going back to the Capitol. But the thing which I thought about this as I looked at it is her campaign was much better focused. I think had a much better message this time around. And although I think there were some people, especially last time Don Samuels ran, who were wondering if Don Samuels was really actually a Democrat or was he a moderate Republican in disguise, I think that it clearly was a Democrat. It did not resonate like it did last time, where Ilhan Omar got a bit of a scare in the primary. This time, though, a fairly convincing win for her. I have to talk about the Senate results, though, because this is the impact of what just happened here in Minnesota with the Minnesota Senate primary races. It should actually scare the Republican Party where their party has gone. Absolutely. Now, first, I want to point out just the turnout numbers for the Democrats and the Republicans. This is crazy. A month ago, the Minnesota Republican Party thought they had a chance at breaking the long-standing streak of losses in statewide races to the Democrats. As a matter of fact, I don't think since 2004, was it 2004 was the last time, or 2006 was the last time Pawlenty winning the governor's race. That was, I think, the last time a Republican won a statewide race in Minnesota. They thought this was the year that that Trump was going to resonate. Joe Biden wasn't as popular. A month later, I'm feeling pretty confident that you can call Minnesota for the Democrats right now. I just do not see this state even getting close. A lot of different reasons, including the fact that Kamala Harris is now the nominee as opposed to Biden. Biden's fully endorsed her. People have come back together, although I could say the 2nd District's Andrew Craig seems to be once again at Farm Fest bad-mouthing Biden. I don't know what you're doing there, but that being said, that has changed the dynamic. Adding Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, to the ticket undoubtedly shifted this state, I'd say conservatively, 6 points to the left. I talked about last weekend, I was up in northern Minnesota. I was up in the Iron Range. And the people up there who has been a toss-up district in the past. Pete Stauber runs Minnesota 8 right now. He's the Republican, but there's a lot of people up there who are really excited about the thought of Tim Walz being the vice president of the United States. And that is something which is very interesting. I pointed out the fact that Stauber has kind of shied away from attacking Walz since the initial announcement. And so that decision alone, 6-7 points easily in the favor of the Democrats. So at this point, it was getting out of reach. But then we get to this Senate primary for both the Democrats and the Republicans. Of course, Amy Klobuchar easily wins. The total amount of votes yesterday in the primary for the Democrats was 321,545. Not a lot, but it is a primary. For the Republicans, it was 120. Well, it's almost 128,000 less people. The Republicans, who had actually a primary to vote on the Senate race, they only had 193,688 votes cast for them. Royce White is an absolute disaster for the Republican Party. If they have done everything in their power to get Joe Frazier as the winner of the ticket, clearly the Republican Party in this state is fractured. As a matter of fact, running through the Republican Senate primary last night, Royce White got only 38.5% of the vote. Joe Frazier was at 29.2%, and you ended up having a trio of other candidates get, in the high single digits. There clearly is not a cohesive unit in the Republican Party. Royce White is not going to help your campaigns. Like I said, you already are at a disadvantage now with Governor Walz on the presidential ticket for the Democrats. Trump is stumbling. He looks like a freaking idiot every single day now. He is out there making dumber and dumber comments, sounding like Sylvester with Elon Musk, out there raging against his crowd size, demanding, Joe Biden get back in the race because he doesn't have a game plan to beat Kamala Harris. And so in the state of Minnesota, the next race down is that U.S. Senate race. Royce White, I've talked about him before. Long history of misogynistic social media comments, anti-Semitic comments, homophobic comments, and he can't help himself. I mean, the Star Tribune noted that they were not going to have a of him at his victory celebration last night because when they tried to send a photographer over there, basically, and I'm paraphrasing, no commies. So he clearly doesn't. Not only does he not understand the political matrix of the spectrum of political parties, he clearly doesn't even understand that. But here you are. If you're going to have any chance to make this race close, you need the biggest newspaper in the state covering your campaign. And here you are telling them nope. Because I guess you think a few, War Eagle Patriot podcast out in the middle of farm country in western Minnesota, how going to be the interview that brings you the Senate seat. No, it's not. He comes marching in here with Steve Bannon as Steve Bannon's anointed candidate. And it just shows you how broken the Republican Party is. Because immediately, none of this social media stuff was a mystery. None of it was. It's all out there. He kept it up there. No one went through him with the social media and say, delete, 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 until after the fact. Until after it all was visible and everyone saw what he was saying about women and Jewish people and as well as the gay community. It was all out there. And on top of that, they should have seen Steve Bannon and said, no. This is a fringe candidate that most people do not like. This cannot be the flag bearer of the party. Instead, they don't know how to break their party away from the lunatic fringe. Even at state levels, this extremist MAGA, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Steve Bannon, it's all rigged. QAnon-based psychopathic thought process. It is ingrained into their voting base right now. And 40%, basically 40%, actually I'd say a little bit higher. I would say maybe 45% of the Republican Party in the state of Minnesota wants to have this extremism. They don't want candidates who are competent. They don't want candidates who can win. They want candidates who are going to go after their perceived villains and punish them. That's what they want. Royce White cripples the Republican Party in this state. The one other major race in the state, of course, is the Minnesota House. The Republicans desperate to basically break the trifecta that the Democrats currently have with the governor's race. Once again, Governor Walz wins the vice presidency. That goes to Peggy Flanagan. It stays in the Democratic hands. The Senate, right now, there is an open Senate seat. I feel very confident. I'll get to the candidate that won the open primary yesterday. I feel very confident about that. Bobby Joe Champion of the Senate will become the lieutenant governor. That's just the way things process. City of Minneapolis, that's going to be another Democratic senator. So I'm not too concerned about that either. They want to win the Minnesota House. They can win the House. They can force the hand, try to basically claw back some of the major gains that the Democrats made in the last legislative cycle. And now Royce White has basically left an impact crater on any hope for that. Because I don't see how, out in red meat Republican districts, Royce White is going to play. But those districts are not up for grabs. You have to look at any race out there where there is a +5 Republican seat or towards the Democrats. And all those seats are up for grabs now. Because Royce White is so toxic of a candidate. The DFL in this state would be fools if you did not go around and put edited versions of his social media posts on billboards across the state and say, do you really support this for the U.S. Senate? The Republicans need to win the suburban seats. Royce White winning yesterday pretty much nullifies that. I've talked already how the Republicans that are running for the Minnesota House are trying to present themselves as, I'm really a moderate Democrat, to try to trick people into voting Republican. But as much as you want to say that, you're expecting people in this state to vote for Harris and Walz, and then vote for Amy Klobuchar, and then somehow throw you a bone. I don't see that happening. I do not see that happening. Don't get me wrong. I have zero doubt October is going to be a hoot in this state when all these Republicans are like, I've never really liked Trump or Royce White, but I'm an independent thinker. Reminder, Republicans are lying. There is no independent thought when it comes to the Republican Party. That is who they are. They made Jensen kill his own insulin bill because they did not want to give the Democrats a win. That is who they are. They all march in one step, and that's it. Don't fool yourself. Royce White is such a bad Senate candidate. I think that the Minnesota 8 seat is up for grabs. I'll get to that here in a little bit. I would not be surprised with Governor Walz on the vice president if Minnesota 1 becomes a much closer race down there with, Finstead down there. And Republicans right now are frantically trying to figure out any strategy they can to try to at least not lose 10 Minnesota House seats this election cycle. Good luck. I got to be honest with you. If I am the Republican Party of Minnesota, I'm probably moving to the Dakotas because I think that's going to be your better chance than sticking around here because you basically, with those primary results from last night and Royce White being your candidate, good luck, man. Good luck. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. More on some of the outcomes from the the primary day yesterday. We'll get to those as well. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Wednesday. It is the Matt McNeil Show. Good to have you with us today. 952-946-6205. By the way, I did want to mention it was a Senate District 45 seat. Ann Johnson Stewart, who, reminder, when they did the redistricting, she kind of got pinched out of that seat because she had to run against another person who was already established, senator, and ended up getting out. I'm so glad she's run again. I got to believe that she is a strong, strong candidate. And once again, the Republicans have got to deal with Royce White, man. So I'm sorry. I live in the western suburbs. My kids go to school with kids from Minnetonka and Eden Prairie. I don't know a single person out there who's like, oh, Royce White, yeah, I'm willing to overlook that stuff. I mean, it is almost a perfect storm for the Republicans because not only is the main tentpole issue against them abortion, which they themselves got rid of, and they themselves can't stop. We talked this yesterday, 14A, Perryman, the Republican up in St. Cloud, on the record basically saying, I don't believe there should be any exceptions for abortions. So rape, incest, life of the mother, nope, nothing there. They can't help but admit it. So it's already a tough sell. But then you get, not only do you have Trump, but you have Royce White, who has a history of making misogynistic and homophobic and anti-Semitic comments, man. I don't know. In the suburbs, I mean, it usually in years where the Republicans might start making up some ground, yes, you hear a little hubbub in the neighborhood. I don't hear a damn thing. I just hear Democrats, Walz, Harris. That's what I'm hearing. It's just I don't hear a damn thing from Republicans. I want to go up to 8 as well because there was an interesting stat here. Now, once again, this last weekend, I was up in the northern part of the state, and it was interesting because I went up there. I saw only 2 Trump flags, banners, posters. I saw a Royce White poster, but that was down on 35 just north of the metro. Didn't see anything up in the Iron Range for Royce White. And by the way, I think in St. Louis County, the other guy won St. Louis County, so I guess it doesn't surprise me too much. But one of the things which is interesting is that since Walz was named the vice presidential candidate, that people up there are buzzing. It's like, oh, okay, because he has been pro-labor. He has been, pro-Minnesota. And as one discussion I had, and I brought this up yesterday, was that when Oberstar was up in 8 and he was the head of the transportation committee, do you know how many roads got rebuilt in northern Minnesota? I mean, they built like crazy up there. And got all these infrastructure projects that were put forward by Joe Biden as well as Governor Walz. He has won re-election because he is one of those candidates like Amy Klobuchar that does pull some moderate Republicans over. And yesterday we had Michael Broadcorp on the air talking about how he is voting Harris-Walz this time just because he can't stand the idea of Trump. So here is Stauber, who is Trump's buddy. Don't let him reinvent himself. He is a Trump stooge. He has bragged about Trump. He's basically loved Trump. He's welcomed Trump with open arms. He is a Trump guy going against Governor Walz. And here he is up there. Now he has to deal with Royce White as the Senate candidate. My guess is not, I don't think, maybe Emmer will take one for the team, but my guess is Fischbach and Stauber especially and Finstad will not appear at events with Royce White. Dear gosh, can you imagine the Republican booth over at the State Fair? Yeah, I'll be up there, but is Royce White going to be there? No? All right, good. I'll come in there.
You think they might Michelle McDonald him back when they banned her from the...
Almost people coming to blows there. That was brilliant. Oh, good times. Good times. And, oh, God, I got to tell you the truth is, how many people have Harris Walls T-shirts and hats? Just get them on, walk on past the Republican booth. Oh, that is going to be a very depressing state fair for the Republican Party. But my guess is going to be is Stauber and Finstad and Fischbach are probably not going to do too much with Royce White. Maybe one or two things, but not much. So I'm looking at the numbers, and I talked about the numbers with Klobuchar, where she basically in the primaries yesterday, 125,000 more Democrats showed up than Republicans. And they thought they were going to win this state. Okay. So breaking down into the District 8 race, if you look at these races where there were contested primaries on both sides, usually the incumbent had a pretty substantial lead, 8,000 to 10,000 votes. All right? You saw that with Craig in 2. You saw that with, I don't think Finstad had an opponent. Fischbach didn't have an opponent up in 8. I think there was no opponent for either 4 or 5. So you get a little bit of that. You get a little bit of a margin breakdown there. That the incumbent generally is going to get more votes than the opposing party's challenger in the primary. But when I looked at the numbers here, and once again, this is supposedly Pete Stauber. This is supposedly a guy who is, somewhat popular. He got more votes than Jen Schultz, but not by much. Jen Schultz won the DFL nomination in the primary yesterday. Pete Stauber won the Republican one. But Stauber basically was, about 4,700 votes ahead. That was it. And we've now got 2 months of him being Trump's best buddy and Royce White on the top of the ticket. I got to say, I'm actually feeling somewhat comfortable that the Minnesota 8 seat might be in play. And when I say I'm feeling comfortable, I'm saying, unless something dramatic happens, I think that is not going to be a race that is going to be easy for the Republicans to defend. Of all the Republican-held seats right now, Stauber's is the most susceptible. He's got the Native American tribes who are, not exactly on the side of the Republicans. And frankly, once again, they're looking at a historic moment themselves, having the first female Native American governor in the country in Peggy Flanagan if Walz wins. So, he's going to – the Native American vote I don't think is going to necessarily save him this time around. He does come down, that Minnesota 8th Congressional District does come down into the metro. And as you get close to the metro, you get more Democrats there. Duluth doesn't help you. Duluth, I mean, there are parts of Minneapolis, St. Paul that wish they were only as blue as Duluth is. Duluth is a pretty safe seat. And if you get up on the range, if you get up to Hibbing and you get to Virginia and stuff, and they're excited about Walz, what are you campaigning on? And if I may, Jen Schultz, DFL, if you're up there, here you go. He's going to go out there and say, we need precious metal mining. We need to tear up the Boundary Waters and destroy it so we can give Antofagasta as much money as possible. That's what his argument's going to be. And he's going to say, and his argument's going to be, jobs, 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 jobs. And here's what you say. You are proposing to destroy the Boundary Waters canoe area for about 10,000 mining jobs, jeopardizing 125 tourism and customer service jobs that speckle across the entire Iron Range. You want to, for 10,000 jobs, jeopardize 125,000 jobs. What kind of idiot are you, Pete Stauber? No, seriously, Pete, what kind of freaking idiot are you? Oh, that's right. One in the pocket of Antofagasta. That's right. No, it's all right. I answered my own question. One guy that's got a price tag that said sold on his neck. That's Pete Stauber right there. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. We, of course, are excited as Matt Matthews is coming on tour here. His Matt Matthews comedy tour, Bougie on a Budget, is going to be at the State Theater in January. Of course, tickets go on sale this Friday at the show that's at Live Nation website. You can find the tickets there. Of course, you can as well win tickets. Hey, how about that? We are giving away tickets right now, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. You can get yourself a pair of tickets to Matt Matthews' Bougie on a Budget tour at the State Theater in January before they go on sale. Good luck. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Caller number 5. Caller number 5, you're going to win those tickets. Good luck on that. We'll take a break. Come on back. It is the Matt McNeil Show.
Full of love that's coming your way, baby. Spike heels and skin tight jeans. I got a fist full of love that's coming your way.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Brett, who is our winner?
We have Daniel from Lanesboro winning.
Daniel from Lanesboro. Playoffs. Daniel from Lanesboro. Thank you very much for listening down in Lanesboro. Appreciate it. Been in your town. Very nice little town. Thank you very much for calling in. You've got yourself tickets to go see Matt Matthews. Here's the great deal. Tomorrow and on Friday, I got 2 pairs of tickets each day. Two pairs of tickets each day giveaway. So listen for your chance to win coming up tomorrow and Friday. Tickets go on sale, by the way, on Friday for the State Theater. Matt Matthews in town in January, the Bougie on a Budget tour. So, Brett, this town is going to be so drunk tonight. Because once again, how can you think anything but the sports teams in this town are cursed? How can you think anything? J.J. McCarthy had surgery on his right knee Wednesday. A full repair of his torn meniscus was necessary. He is out for the entire 2024 season. The injury occurred in the Vikings' 24-23 victory over the Raiders in a preseason game on Saturday. One game, our number 10 pick in the first-round draft, and you're not even going to get a chance to see him for a year. So, yeah, what do you think?
You said playoffs earlier, doing the old Jim Mora impression. I don't think the Vikings are going there this year without J.J. McCarthy, but yeah, as I said,
Sam Darnold is not bad, but
yeah.
If there's anything, you want to know the truth, you know what would be most likely? Watch, not even Sam Darnold, watch one of these guys we picked up in like the 7th round come on in and actually start doing well. And then all of a sudden the Vikings have to deal with this decision of, do we bring J.J. McCarthy back, or is this wonder kid who's starting to look pretty good there? And they will undoubtedly make the wrong decision. They will undoubtedly make the wrong decision. This is, it is comical how this happens. Bright optimism for the Vikings. And apparently Royce was out there and saying, the mood over here at the training camp has changed just a smidge. One preseason game. And then you got to hope that he doesn't re-injure himself coming back. And everyone's going to go for the knees. Everyone's going to try and tie him up at his knees, man.
Or at least he's 21 years old. At least when you're 21, you heal from those things pretty quickly. At least when you're in your 30s, comparatively. But he's got that going for him, and he probably wasn't going to play a lot this year anyways, but still not good. You'd rather have him not hurt. But
am I crazy? It's just, you kind of look at stuff like this, and you can't escape the fact that there seems to be something just wrong with how things go with sports in this town. That the Wild. I've ripped on the Wild because the Wild seems to be a franchise who they know they're going to have a full XL Energy Center. because it's hockey in Minnesota. So they don't have to try it because they're making a ton of money off their, whatever, $15 beers and, $10 hamburgers. They're making a ton of money. They don't really care. And until basically they start seeing empty seats in that stadium, which will probably never happen, they're not going to really ever try to put down forward a competitive product. They're just not. They'll sign some token players to make it look like they're trying to do something, but they're not trying to win. You take a look at the teams that are making playoff runs in the Stanley Cup. They're very different. So you got that problem. Timberwolves finally took the turn because they were smart enough to hold on to the better players and not trade everyone away for, draft picks that never develop. They've got a potential, and this town could be returned to its Laker days of yore and become a basketball town again. The Twins, they're a good story this year. They're enjoyable. Does anyone think that they're going to make the World Series?
Speaking of injuries.
Injuries? I mean,
Yeah.
Did Buxton pick up a paperclip and break his arm in 6 places? Mr. Glass is at it again here. I mean, it's okay. Come on, Correa, Royce Lewis, and Buxton. You need those 3 guys healthy, and those guys can't stay healthy. I've never seen this bad. And it's who is the guy from the Dominican Republic we had that was constantly injured too? Sano, yeah. I mean, this has been a 10-year journey through incompetent management of health on that team. So you got that, and then you get the freaking Vikings. And sure, don't give me a hey. It's Minnesota United. I guess I could throw in there. That team is lost. You can throw Minnesota United in there, and sure, the Lynx are good and stuff like that. You get these good teams that are out there, and the Lynx are enjoyable. I would highly encourage you to go see a game. But when it comes to the marquee sports and the marquee leagues, this has been a laughingstock at how bad things have been here. And now, just when you're saying, trust us, we're going to turn this around, the one guy that you were hanging your hat on, one preseason game, and he's gone. It is brutal being a sports fan in this town. I guess maybe that's one of the reasons why I like Gopher hockey. Is that Gopher hockey is consistently good, and I think the Lynx and Gopher hockey are probably the 2 best, most consistent sports teams in this town. And yeah, I can, but we need to pay another $2 billion for a facility for a team to play in. And just, oh God, tell me the last time you as a sports fan felt like you got value out of these teams. Seriously, tell me the last time you said to yourself, boy, oh boy, thank God we spent the money for this because this team has made it worth it. Tell me. Can you think of any time?
Well, certainly with that Viking stadium when they won all those Super Bowls. Stadiums get you championships. Haven't you heard? That's the stadiums get you championships. And ACL tears, apparently. God. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. At least, you know what the one good thing is? At least I don't have to deal with the idiot in the fantasy football draft drafting J.J. McCarthy in the 2nd round. Oh, man, I think this is the smartest pickup I've made. Yeah, you're an idiot. At least, will someone still draft him in most of the Minnesota-based fantasy football drafts? I'm going to say yeah. I wonder, but now the road has been cleared for you to take Sam Darnold in the 3rd round. So I'm sure that's going to be up on your draft board.
If I get Lamar Jackson again, man, and that dude that dude's a fantasy football freak. All right, okay, we're getting away from this. Let's go back to the primaries yesterday. Returning with a favorite topic of mine, Molly Dennis. This is the city council member down in Rochester who's had some interesting stories. Her tumultuous time on the Rochester City Council is coming to an end. On Tuesday, the first-term council member was defeated in a 4-way primary race in her Ward 6 seat. Preliminary results show Dennis finishing last in the race with just 14% of the vote. The 2 candidates advancing to the November general election on Ward 6 are Dan During, D-O-E-R-I-N-G, a Lutheran pastor, and Mark Schulzner, a programmer at Mayo Clinic. Leading up to the primary, Dennis's challengers made the case that the Ward 6 rep had become distracted during the first term on the council. In March 2023, Dennis was formally censored by the council for inappropriate behavior, including alleged harassing city staff. The measure limited her interactions with staff for a year and led to ongoing disputes during meetings, including in May, where she was kicked out of a council chambers following a heated exchange. Dennis has argued that she's being pushed aside for raising tough questions on how the city spends public funds. Dennis, who has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, has also filed a lawsuit against the city, along with 2 council colleagues, alleging that she was been discriminated against on how she possesses information. After Tuesday's tally, however, it's clear the voters share concerns about her performance as a council member. Dennis finished with 267 votes, about a quarter of the number she received in the 2020 primary. 267. You're running for a city council in Rochester, and you only got 267 votes. Wow, that is not a lot. Wisconsin. Let's turn our attention across the border. Ugh. Sorry. Turnout in Wisconsin election Tuesday was the highest in 60 years, a presidential year partisan primary, with over 26% of the state's voting age population casting ballots based on unofficial results. It actually was a pretty good day over there. Wisconsin voters on Tuesday rejected Republican-authored ballot questions that would have limited the governor's power to spend federal money that comes to the state for disaster relief or any other crisis unless it's already earmarked. Basically, this is another power grab by the Republicans in the House and the Senate, who were trying desperately to prevent Evers from being able to distribute funds, say like COVID funds, and that's kind of where this all came from. The constitutional amendments were placed on the ballot by the GOP-controlled legislature. Wisconsin voters already set the field in a closely watched Senate contest on Tuesday, with Republican businessman Eric Hovde, who is endorsed by Donald Trump, easily winning Wisconsin's Republican Senate primary. But 2 of Trump's biggest backers in the legislature, including one endorsed by the former president, lost in primaries to more moderate Republicans. State Representative Janelle Brantgen, who Trump endorsed, lost a primary to current Senator Dan Knodel. Dear God, Wisconsin, you got to get politicians with more vowels in their names. Knodl, and Brantgen was Brandtjen. The race between the 2 Republican incumbents recreated a newly drawn legislative districts. Former Representative Tim Ramthun lost to Senator Dan Fayen. Both Brantgen and Ramthun had pushed to decertify President Joe Biden's 2020 victory. Rejection. This is, and once again, if you've not paid attention, Wisconsin, they basically went out there and redid their maps because, well, frankly, They were wrong and horrible. They basically stopped them from being gerrymandered. And I think one of the reasons the fact that the Republicans, the moderate Republicans, were able to knock off the MAGA far right Republicans, I think is a sign. And I should mention, I want to go over to, once again, electoralvote.com. If you go through this and you look at how things are breaking down, Wisconsin is it is a very interesting it's a very interesting race right now. The last poll I saw, Baldwin was leading Hovde. Now Hovde is just a comical character of screw ups and stupid things he says. I thought the last I saw she was leading by 10 points. In that race, and this is it's now listed as a strong Democrat on Electoral Vote. Once again, this is the League of Women Voters page. Baldwin leading Hovde by 10. Now, once again, take polls with a grain of salt because every one of them has been undercounting the Democratic vote. So this could actually be even a bigger blowout there. It will be interesting to see. I don't think Hovde is going to be able to come back. I really do honestly think that this whole thing, that his campaign is just, he's bad. He is not a good candidate. The rejection of the ballot measures in Wisconsin was a huge win for the liberals. Democrats, including Tony Evers and a host of liberal groups and others organized against the amendments. They had argued adopting them would slow down the distribution of money when it needs to be spent quickly, but Republican backers argued the measures would have added more oversight and served a check on the governor's power. So once again, this was a it was a case where the Republicans this is their last power grab. Now, once again, eventually the Republicans are going to lose power in the House and the Senate in Wisconsin. Two things are going to happen. First of all, there is not going to be enough people on the planet to burn every computer drive, hard drive, shred papers. They don't want you to see what's been going on. Because as most of the people that I know in politics, the Republican Party in Wisconsin is basically controlled by Wisconsin's business interests. And my guess is they would be able to find direct connections between the Speaker of the Assembly and the senators from Republican business leaders in the state saying, do this, do this, do this, and they don't want that to happen. But the fact now they can't work with the gerrymandered maps anymore, it is there is a new day that's getting ready to dawn in Wisconsin. And that's a good thing. It is a shame. I think about back in 2010 when Governor Dayton ran against Emmer. And if not for the independent candidate, we would have had Minnesota be like Wisconsin. And thank God for Governor Dayton back then, because he stopped the Republicans from doing a lot of the stuff that they wanted to do. And the reality was they basically... Thank God for Governor Dayton, because it is disturbing to see the amount of damage that the Republican Party of Wisconsin has done to that state. Whether it's the university, whether it's environmental, selling off parks to private homeowners now. There are state parks they just gave to private homeowners. Unbelievable. You know, corporate interest taking over large swaths of the state. Foxconn. Just an absolute disaster. An absolute disaster. Kyle Rittenhouse being basically let go for murdering people in the street by a judge who basically said they seem to want to have it happen to them. Unbelievable. It is remarkable how bad things have gotten. But in Wisconsin, I'm glad things hopefully are about to turn around. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Take a break, come back, wrap up the show. When we return, it is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Wednesday.
Down and my mood wasn't right. Should have stayed a little bit longer with you, but yeah, I don't know. Every time you turn around.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. So I saw this story, and once again, the change. If you have not noticed, the roads in this city, in Minneapolis, St. Paul, they are nuts, man. Especially Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it takes you forever to get anywhere in this town. Minnesota roads were busier over the past year than before the pandemic. A puzzling trend, considering the rise of remote work. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's once again, is it remote work? I mean, Mondays, I don't really have a problem. Fridays, of course, Fridays in Minneapolis, St. Paul in the summer, no one's on the roads. I mean, I can drive posted speeds all the way home. But, I think it's the fact that a lot of businesses want people back in the office a few days each week, and those days seem to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Traffic jams are frustrating, especially when they shouldn't be happening. Between June of, shouldn't they be happening or they were not expected to happen? Between June of 2023 and May 2024, vehicles traveled 59.4 billion miles in the state, which is up from 58.6 billion during the same period, according to the Federal Highway Administration. That 1.4% increase is almost on par with Minnesota's population increase of 1.7% over the past 4 years. Nearly 17% of Minnesotan workers told the U.S. Census Bureau they worked from home most or all the time in 2022. Remote work has taken a toll on downtowns, but the raw number of primary remote workers was 527,000 in 2022, less than 10% of the state's overall population of about 5.7 million. Now, once again, you got to minus the 18 and under crowd and the retired people. Still, I mean, okay, it depends on what you're saying, because remote work doesn't necessarily mean every day is remote. It might mean a hybrid system, and that seems to be where most companies are going. My wife, she works in a remote work. there's a hybrid system. So many of them were already working from home before the pandemic. 6.7% in 2019, according to the Minneapolis Federal Reserve. Remote work is also becoming a hybrid for many. Axios asked economists from the University of Minnesota and the Minneapolis Federal Reserve if they had an explanation. Then both organizations said, yeah. They basically said they had no idea. The State Department of Transportation doesn't regularly ask motorists why they drive, but she told Axios that driving decreases when it's snowing and cold, and last winter's record warmth and lack of snow probably played a role. There could be other factors. Metro Transit ridership is still 41% below the pre-pandemic levels of last year. Many people are opting for cars over transit. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's part of it. I think that that's part of it. People that if they have to go into work, they want to drive into work so they can kind of leave early. The day my son graduated at the U, we had to come home and then get back to dinner downtown. It took me about an hour and 20 minutes to go from the campus to Hopkins back into the downtown. That's as bad as I've ever seen the traffic in this town. As bad as I've ever seen it. So it just, hey, you're complaining no one's driving. Now they're all driving. So, you complain everyone's driving. Well, pick a lane. How about I say it like that? Native Roots Radio is up next. Have a good one. We're back tomorrow. Till then, see ya.